G'day mates, welcome back. This week we're going to show you some stuff on Bill's truck that I'm working on right at this moment. The 52, we're still doing some work on that, but we'll get back to you with some more updates on that next week. But let's just take a look at what we're doing here. What I'm doing is I'm running airbag suspension on it. So this truck has done over 1 million miles. We like to keep this thing updated. The engine's just been rebuilt, everything's rebuilt, so it was time to do the suspension. It's got brand new Bilstein shocks in the rear, 2,700 pound airbags that we'll show you some pictures of shortly. And then what I'm doing now is I'm wiring and plumbing the compressors. So we're running 2 compressors, and as you can see we're running 2 air tanks. Both of those are 5-gallon tanks. We've got a spigot here so that we can plug an airline in to inflate tyres. But with four airbags, and to be able to control them you need a four-way solenoid. So that's what this is. And thank you to whoever made this for giving us 10 wires all the same colour. So I've got to work out what wires go where. But basically what we do is we run an airline from each of the bags. So this is the left rear and left front, and then we run these into the solenoid. So the solenoids here will control the air going into them, and then the exhaust comes out of here. And then what happens is they run from here, then we run in gauges inside the cab on the center console that I'll show you shortly. So each individual line has its own air. And the reason why you do that, I don't know if you've had anything to do with air suspension before, but if you don't run each airbag individually and you tee them off and run together, when you're cornering it, the air will actually push from one airbag to the other airbag, so it doesn't hold its stability. So that's why we go with 4. The air tanks here, you can see we've got a crossover line. There's a crossover line that goes to the other air tank as well, so that keeps them balanced. So you haven't got one air tank that's running at 160 psi and one air tank running at 140, so that keeps them all nice and balanced there. So my next step is to finish putting all this hardware together and plumbing in the lines, and then the wiring. So from here, the wiring has to run up through the floor and up into the cab, and the airlines, we run a tee off of those and run another airline up into the cab as well. And I'll show you on the console over here why we got to run all that. Okay, so what we're going to show you now is this is actually the console out of the truck that we were just showing you. What I've done is I've fabricated up a mount so that we can mount the gauges. They'll actually sit in front of the console so that the driver can see the gauges, and then we've got a cutout here for the switches. So this is all leather covered. So these switches will actually run inside here. So we've got 4 switches. So each switch is for up and down for the airbags. So when I wire those up, we've got to have to be able to. These switches will control the solenoid block that I just showed you. And then with because we put the T-piece into the airlines, what happens is one line from each of those T-pieces actually runs up here, and as you can see, this is a twin needle gauge. So I'll have these so that it'll be fronts and rears, and it'll show the pressure for each bag for the rear and each bag for the front. So once they're all mounted in there, we'll do that. And then, like I said, just the switches will be here, just control the switches up and down. So you can see exactly what's going on. You can actually adjust all your air pressures on the fly. You don't have to stop and try and find a gas station and put some air in it or anything crazy like that. We can do everything all on the fly. Okay, as you can see, these are the rear airbags. They're, like I said, a 2,700 pound airbag. So what they do is you can inflate them when we're towing trailers, because this truck basically just tows the trailer non-stop. So we can adjust them and inflate them to what pressures we want. And some people will try and run airbags without shocks, but you actually need shocks, because if you don't, they'll bounce. So that's why you always run airbags, shocks with airbags. And then I'll show you on the front. This is another setup in the front. Because this is a torsion bar front end, you can't really run the conventional airbag like that. So what we do is actually run an airbag inside the spring. So what that does is we can inflate that to up to 80 psi, and that'll just slow down the movement of the springs. And like I said, once again, we've got brand new Bilstein shocks on the front and on the rear. Okay, well, at the moment we're I've still got this Bluetooth system here that I was going to show you this week, but we've been a bit held up. But what I'll do is, if you remember what I'm going to do with these switches, this Bluetooth system will actually remove all those switches in another system if we want to run it that way. Okay, we'll call in next week and we'll give you some tech tips, and we might actually run you through a few bikes that I've run coming up in the future, and we'll keep you updated on the progress of this car here. So we're working on that every day, but we thought you'd just give you something different to look at this week. So come back soon and have a good time. Okay, well at the moment I've still got this Bluetooth system here that I was going to show you this week, but we've been a bit held up. But what I'll do is, if you remember what I'm going to do with these switches, this Bluetooth system will actually remove all those switches in another system if we want to run it that way. But that's about it for this week, so make sure you call in again next week and we'll give you some tech tips and